Saints second round selection Alontae Taylor deserves an opportunity for a much larger role than just special teams. Why I'm glad the New Orleans Saints decided to pass on quarterback this year, and the names I would like to hear called when the New Orleans Saints are back on the clock in day 3. We got all that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? Welcome in to this bonus Saturday episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks as always, making us your first listen of the day every day. Don't forget that we're free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube as well. And I'm your host, Ross Jackson, at Ross Jackson Nola on Twitter. You can find me over at USA Today's Saints Wire, Tuesdays on Locked On NFL, and here with you every single Monday through Friday on Locked On Saints. New Orleans Saints shocked a bit in the second round, grabbing Tennessee cornerback Alontae Taylor. Now, not a lot of people have looked into Alontae Taylor. Not a lot of people knew who Alontae Taylor was, but if you've been paying attention here on Locked On Saints, and if you've been watching here, by the way, I know we have a bunch of new listeners. Thank you very much for finding the show. Remember, we're here with you every Monday through Friday, every single day, covering your New Orleans Saints. So don't forget to subscribe, all that good stuff, so you don't miss an episode. Because we talk about these guys, and we talked about Alontae Taylor as a potential sleeper in this year's draft. So I should clarify here, not only did I actually talk about him here, I talked about him on Tuesdays over on Locked On NFL as well, but I should clarify that when I talked about him as a sleeper, I talked about him as a mid to late round selection, 3rd, 4th, 5th round. This is a guy that in Tennessee, at the University of Tennessee, played almost exclusively over on the outside, but has a lot of the things that you like as somebody that could potentially play safety at the next level. Great size at 6 foot, 199 pounds. Great speed with 4.31 speed, 4.3 speed effectively in the 40-yard dash. Great tracking ability. Great ability, does a really great job making plays on the ball. Phenomenal attitude, see ball, get ball kind of attitude. And honestly, just a fantastic leader. I mean, look at all the things that he has done during his time. I've never seen a player get drafted and more tweets come out of videos of him saying inspiring things and talking about the fantastic NIL deal that he had with free cookies every time that he got an interception, like all these things, and him kissing a photo of his grandmother when his late grandmother when he was drafted. You know what I mean? Just incredible stories from this guy over and over and over again. So a really high character guy, he's going to fit in New Orleans, but where does he fit on the defensive side is the big question, because the Saints may be about to underutilize this guy a little bit, and it gives me a little bit of concern. As I look at Alontae Taylor's skill set, and I think he's a perfect fit as a guy that could potentially transition to safety for you, even if he can't do it in 2022. A guy that could easily transition to safety for you and help you fill this massive hole that you still don't have an answer for over on your defensive side, unless it's going to be Daniel Sorensen, and I don't think that's going to be the case. Because just like with Daniel Sorensen, who, Dennis Allen said, we see as a special teamer, that's now what they're saying about Alontae Taylor as well. Now, they're saying more about Alontae Taylor, right? They know that he can be an elite special teamer. We talked about that as well. He's going to be a phenomenal gunner in the NFL. He's a very good tackler. He does a great job taking angles. Little bit challenging sometimes when it comes to angles from inside out, but does a great job outside in. That's exactly what you're going to see from a gunner. And, of course, that great speed, 4.31 speed. So, not only do they see him as somebody that can be an elite special teamer at the next level, which is great, they also see him as somebody that might actually be able to compete for snaps in the secondary at corner as opposed to at safety, which surprises me. Because I think about if you're trying to maximize this guy, if you're trying to maximize the skill set, the tool set that he has, do so by putting him away from the line of scrimmage, allowing things to develop in front of him, and utilizing his speed to be able to make plays on the ball. Instead, they like his press man ability. So does that mean he's going to be competing with Paulson Adebo, who had a great rookie year last year? You spent the 3rd round selection on Paulson Adebo, which you also traded up for, by the way. You traded a 3rd round selection for Bradley Roby, who couldn't get on the field over Paulson Adebo last year after Paulson Adebo had to start early on in the season because Bradley Roby was suspended for a year. So now you bring in Alontae Taylor, and are you going to have him compete with Paulson Adebo for the starting role opposite Marshawn Lattimore? And if so, what do you do with Paulson Adebo in that case? There's a couple of different possibilities here, right? There's a possibility of that, him competing on the outside, which is curious to me. I don't think that it's impossible. I don't necessarily think that it's bad. I think that would justify a second-round selection, in fact, in that case. But it's curious. So that's one possibility. Second possibility is that you let him challenge at safety, compete at safety, see if he can be your replacement for Marcus Williams, because one of the other little nuggets that we got from Dennis Allen and all this is that they don't see Marcus May, who played the deep safety role early on in his career at the New York Jets and then transitioned to a box safety role with Robert Saleh. They see him more as a strong safety, not a free safety. So who's playing free safety for you? It could be the second possibility, Alontae Taylor, competing there. Now, I know that they're saying that they see him as a cornerback. We've heard that before, right? Zach Bond was supposed to be a will linebacker, right? Adam Troutman was supposed to be a true Y. So we haven't seen some of those things pan out entirely yet. So what they might want to look at with him early on in his career may not equal what his actual trajectory is in the NFL. He's going to show you what that is. And that's going to be on Alontae Taylor in camp. And again, I think he's a very talented player. I'm just curious about what the New Orleans Saints are going to do with him in terms of his usage. The final piece of that puzzle, in terms of a third possibility for Alontae Taylor, is you have P.J. Williams shift over and play the Marcus Williams role. He was Marcus Williams' backup as a free safety last year, plays well away from the line of scrimmage. Then you have Marcus May as your strong safety, and then you utilize Alontae Taylor as your sort of mix-up guy, the same way that you did your versatile sort of multiple piece in place of P.J. Williams, because now you have P.J. Williams playing and solely focusing on the deep role, right? P.J. Williams is the only player on this roster right now that makes sense to me as a deep safety if Marcus May isn't going to be the guy. It's not going to be Daniel Sorensen. It's not going to be Justin Evans. It's not going to be Bryce Thompson. Could be Bryce Thompson, but it's not going to be Bryce Thompson. I don't think so. Could be interesting. Couple of volunteers over on the defensive side. Lots of Tennessee volunteers on the roster, by the way, 7 now. And then you have Cody Burns, who's former Tennessee Volunteers wide receiver coach, who's now the New Orleans Saints wide receiver coach. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what it is that the Saints do with Alontae Taylor here. I think that he would be fantastic as a safety, but that doesn't mean that the Saints do. The Saints instead might look at him as somebody that could compete at corner, and then all of a sudden you have a surplus of corners, a premium position in the NFL, which, by the way, shout out to the Saints. We talked about them going all their top 100 selections, rarely addressing or using top 100 selections on premium positions. Now here they are, 3 picks, 11, 19, 49, wide receiver, offensive tackle, cornerback. They're all premier positions. So there you go. That's how we talked about them winning the draft, was by focusing on premier positions, because those are the players that translate quickly. Those are the players that if you get them right, everybody sees it, and then you win your drafts. But in order for them to do that, they have to figure out exactly where Alontae Taylor fits. I think he's a very talented player. 6 foot, 199 pounds, 4.31 speed, 66.6% or 66.6 passer rating when targeted in college. Great player. Just going to be really, really interesting to see where the New Orleans Saints have him fit in. So while there's some question marks around the New Orleans Saints and their selection of Alontae Taylor, not because of Taylor, but because of their usage, which we'll have to see what that ends up being at the next level, there was no question for me when it came to how happy I was that the New Orleans Saints did not get involved in the quarterback run when it got started. I'll tell you why as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints. Thanks again, as always. Make it as your first listen of the day every day here on the show. It's my great pleasure to tell you about our friends over at Shady Rays, an independent sunglasses company that's selling you the same high quality stuff that you're going to get when it comes to those $200 pair of name brand sunglasses, all those known fancy brands, but at a fraction of the price. So you're getting the polarized lenses, you're getting the durable frames, you're getting everything that you're accustomed to, except you're also going to get an absolutely insane protection plan. If you're like me, I lose sunglasses, I break sunglasses all the time. The ones that I have spent $100, $200 on have all met an earlier demise than I expected. But that's not the case when it comes to Shady Rays, because if you lose or break your glasses, they will send you a replacement pair, no questions asked. And they also have a 100% satisfaction guarantee, so if you don't like them, you pay nothing. So go and check them out over at shadyrays.com. Take advantage of that insane protection plan and try them out for yourself. Don't forget to use the promo code, though, Locked On. LOCKEDON is the promo code. It's going to get you 50% off of 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses. Once again, that's promo code Locked On. Go ahead and take advantage of their best deal of the season. 50% off of 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses over at shadyrays.com. All right, family, continuing on with today's episode of Locked On Saints. Thanks again, as always, making us your first listen of the day every day, especially here during the NFL draft. And if you're not caught up, make sure you're following along with the Locked On NFL YouTube page. Subscribe today so that you can get the rest of our coverage here coming from Dallas, Texas, WFAA Studios station here in Dallas, Texas, where we're doing live coverage for the entire NFL draft. 2 days down, one more day to go. You can already tell I'm exhausted, but I'm here with you, just like I am here every Monday through Friday here on the show. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about what the New Orleans Saints didn't do today and how wise it was to not get involved in the quarterback run when it began. We saw teams start to trade up and grab quarterbacks. The Atlanta Falcons grabbing their quarterback in Desmond Ridder, who is a second QB off the board. We watched eventually Malik Willis head over to the Tennessee Titans. We saw Matt Corral head over to the NFC South rival Carolina Panthers. So you saw two rookie quarterbacks of the four that have been selected so far in this year's draft, of the three that were selected in day two, end up in the NFC South, but neither of them with the New Orleans Saints. And I think that it makes a lot of sense. I think that too many people have looked at and started to discount Jameis Winston without really paying attention to how well he played over the course of those 6.25 games that we saw in 2021, and without giving him the credit that he deserves as a leader going into 2022. And that's okay. I talked about this the other day. I mentioned that Jameis Winston can't just be good. He has to be great. He has to be very, very good in order for people to acknowledge that he's a good starting quarterback, right? So he's going to have to overperform any expectations that are out there. And I think the Saints are helping him do that, right? You've got Michael Thomas that's coming back. You've got Chris Olave that they've added in the draft, which I'm so excited about. They protected him with Trevor Penning. Now there's no excuse, right? I mean, Jameis is going to have to be the guy now when it goes through. He doesn't have any competition going into this year, so he should be in a comfortable enough place to do that. And I do believe that he can do that. But the Saints could have murkied the waters a little bit by going out for a rookie quarterback in this year's draft. But we also just watched, again, only one quarterback go in the top 40 for the first time since the year 2000. I mean, these quarterbacks dropped big time, like stones, all the way down the draft board. And when you look at why that's the case, it goes along with everything that we've heard about this entire offseason. This quarterback class is not good. It is not a good quarterback class. Otherwise, what we saw happen in the NFL would have never happened. The NFL, a quarterback-hungry league, passed on the player in the position that sell you tickets, the player in the position that win you games, the player in the position that are the faces of the franchise, right? Usually that positional value ends up skyrocketing quarterbacks no matter how bad they are or no matter how good they are. They end up getting skyrocketed and propelled into the first round. This quarterback class, so questionable that the NFL went against its own creation, right? This mechanism that they've created that is all quarterback driven. They went against their own nature and let all these quarterbacks fall out of the first round. Incredible. And for the New Orleans Saints to not be fooled and to not jump up and get into this quarterback class like it's going to act differently for them than it will for any of the other 31 teams that are consistently passing on these guys was a wise move, particularly at 49. Now, again, we'll have to see exactly how Alontae Taylor pans out. Not how Alontae Taylor pans out. I think Alontae Taylor is going to be very good in the NFL. We'll have to see how the New Orleans Saints figure out how to utilize Alontae Taylor to the best of his ability, or if he wins a starting role over Paulson Adebo, something like that. So I have to figure out exactly what that's going to be. But I think in any case, getting that player at 49 was better than investing in quarterback at 49. I truly do believe that. And here's one of the reasons why I think this is really smart for Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen could have walked out of this draft and had to affix his future to one of these rookie quarterbacks that are so bad that the NFL changed its nature in not pursuing them. That is not what you want as a head coach, right? Anytime you have a head coach that's coming into their first year in a franchise, I know he has had a coaching career before as the head coach of the then Oakland Raiders, went 8-28 during that time, but now he's a rookie head coach of the New Orleans Saints. And so if you have a rookie head coach of a team paired with a rookie quarterback that was drafted by that regime, they are tied. They are affixed to one another, and their futures are tied to one another, right? If that rookie quarterback fails, that head coach is gone. If that head coach is gone, if that rookie quarterback isn't succeeding and going bonkers, then that quarterback might be on their way out too, right? Look at Josh Rosen and Cliff Kingsbury It's a perfect example, right? Cliff Kingsbury comes in. He immediately moves on from Josh Rosen because that's not his guy, right? You become the inherited quarterback with no tape very quickly, or poor tape, or rookie tape, whatever. It's a lot easier for Dennis Allen, instead of affixing his career tenure, coaching tenure, to a young quarterback or a rookie quarterback, he instead inherits somebody else's quarterback and therefore gets a little bit more leeway if it doesn't work out. Because then he gets to say, well, wait. I didn't get the opportunity to show you what I can do with my guy who's actually in this year's draft. So let's wait and see, right? So it gives you a little bit of leeway. And I don't think that's devious. I think that's smart. I think that that is what Dennis Allen deserves, right? Because he's coming in as a defensive head coach that put together a top 5 scoring defense. That's what he should be judged upon first before the quarterback play. But a rookie quarterback is going to force the hand of the organization. So I think that this is a much, much safer move for the New Orleans Saints and a much more safer move for Dennis Allen as well. So I'm glad that the Saints didn't get involved when those quarterbacks started to come off the board and didn't fool themselves into thinking that a quarterback at 49 was going to work out better for them than the other 31 teams, as we mentioned, that passed on those quarterbacks to a historic level. Now the New Orleans Saints will be back on the clock at 164, 191 in the 5th and 6th rounds of the NFL draft. Who are the names that I would like to hear called? There's a bunch of them because there's still a lot of talent on the board. And with the way that this draft has shaken out so far, there's no such thing as any name that can't be there for them at this point. It's special teams day, but they could walk away with more in rounds 4 and 5, or 5 and 6 rather. We'll cover that. And we'll get to those names as we continue on and wrap up today's episode of Locked On Saints. But first, our friends over at Built Bar have the best tasting protein bar on the market. The protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Some of these flavors: mint brownie, cookies and cream, salted caramel, cherry barcia, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. They've got incredible flavors over there, and each one of those are covered in 100% chocolate. It's the exact same, actually, for their Built Puffs as well. The cinnamon churro, the lemon almond cheesecake. There's a ton, banana cream pie rather. There's a ton of really, really exciting flavors, all covered in 100% chocolate. And I know all of that sounds like it's just absolutely packed with sugar. I have a sweet tooth. I get it. All sounds like it's packed with sugar. 4 or 5 grams of sugar, 4 or 5 grams of net carbs, 17, 18 grams of protein. Doesn't get any better than Built Bar. I promise you. There are no protein bars that are better than Built Bar. I'm seeing more and more people that are trying them. They're tweeting me. They're saying, hey, this flavor is outstanding. This mint brownie's keeping my breath fresh. Like, we're getting everything out of these Built Bars. So they're absolutely loving it, and you should be absolutely loving it too. If you haven't tried them out yet, what are you waiting for? You know we talk about them all the time. We're obsessed with these things. Go and check them out for yourself. Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off of your next order over at Built.com. Promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. Wrapping up today's episode of Locked On Saints with the names that I would love to hear the New Orleans Saints have called when they hit the podium on day 3. They have 2 selections left presently in this year's draft, 164 in the 5th round, 191 in the 6th round. So who are those names? First of all, I want to thank you again for making us your first listen of the day every day, and especially here on a Saturday as we get ready for the 4th through 7th rounds of the NFL draft. Don't forget to check out our Locked On NFL draft coverage on the Locked On NFL YouTube page. Been seeing a lot of the Who Dat Nation there, so thank you for coming through and taking part in the chat. So for the New Orleans Saints, they've addressed wide receiver, offensive tackle, 2 big needs. They added a cornerback who I think could address their need at safety. We'll see how it goes. I'm not quite buying it just yet, but we'll see how it goes. And then what's next for them, right? Interior defensive line is a big one. And the Saints could still find an interior defensive lineman that can come in and help them out. Because otherwise, you've got some guys that you picked up that are kind of like, low market free agents, and you have some undrafted free agents. But now you can actually invest some draft stock here in round 5 or 6 to bring in an interior defensive lineman that might be able to step into a role for you. Perrion Winfrey is one of those guys. So actually here, let me just rattle off a few names for you. Perrion Winfrey at defensive tackle. Matthew Butler out of Tennessee at defensive tackle would be great as well. And then as well as Matt Henningson out of Wisconsin. All 3 very athletic linebackers. These guys are up there in terms of RAS scores. Maybe not necessarily Perrion Winfrey, but Matthew Butler and Henningson are those guys. I think would be absolute steals for the New Orleans Saints, particularly Henningson. Henningson was another one of my draft sleepers here, along with Alontae Taylor, going into this year's draft cycle, who I like a lot. I mean, he's just one of those guys that just has freakishly athletic scores. I mean, to be the size that he is as a defensive tackle and to jump 37 plus inches in the air or whatever it was in his vertical, just absolutely insane. So he's very explosive. He's strong. He's able to do all those things. Malcolm Butler's another one that's ridiculously athletic, very active in the run game, climbs well, strafes well, does a lot of good stuff. So I like what the New Orleans Saints could still do for themselves at defensive tackle. So those are three names to watch for at that position, either in the 5th or 6th round. At this point, there's no such thing as, oh, that player won't be there. You know, and a lot of folks are talking about Alontae Taylor saying, oh, he would have been there in the 4th round. You don't know that. He might have been there in your 4th round for your mock draft simulator, but I bet your mock draft simulator didn't have Malik Willis falling out of the 1st and 2nd rounds either. So it happens, right? So we don't really know what's going to happen. So any of these names at this point are available for the New Orleans Saints. The other position that I think that they should look to address is running back. So far, two of my favorite running back prospects in this year's draft already gone. One of them going to one of them being Rachaad White, who went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So now he's going to be Tom Brady's perfect little weapon over in Tampa Bay, and it's going to drive me nuts. And David Harrison and James Yark over at Locked On Bucs are never going to let me live it down. We also watched James Cook go off the board. Brian Robinson also went off the board to the Washington Commanders. So those are really three of my favorite top guys. Surprisingly, though, there are still some good running backs left. And one of the names is really surprising, which is Isaiah Spiller, who's extremely dynamic. But he has a lot of wear and tear, a lot of, you have to see how much tread he has left on the tires. But in the New Orleans Saints system, you don't really have to be utilized a ton, right? You're going to be looking to maybe replace Alvin Kamara for up to 6 games, maybe not even that. So, the Saints could get lucky there in terms of what that situation is. And instead, you're just rotating with this New Orleans Saints backfield, which would be a good position for a guy like Isaiah Spiller, who's had a lot of action in college. Another player, though, that I would really, really love, and this is somebody that I've liked for quite a while for the Saints, is Florida running back Damion Pierce, who is a phenomenal pass blocker. He can do a little bit of everything. He's got a great build. He can run inside. He can run outside. He can do kind of everything that you're looking for. So I really, really like what Damion Pierce would bring to the New Orleans Saints as well. So those are two names at running back, a place where I think the New Orleans Saints should probably look to address as well. One other position, got 2 picks, might as well look at 3 positions, is going to be pass catcher, right? Can the New Orleans Saints add another pass catcher in this draft? They certainly could, right? I mean, we're watching some of these other wide receivers that are tumbling down, guys like Calvin Austin, for instance, who's still out there. And there are some other, sort of smaller name players, Ty Freifogel, Eric Ezukanma, several players out there that could still contribute for the New Orleans Saints. But don't forget that pass catcher isn't limited to wide receiver. Now, we already watched Jeremy Ruckert and Greg Dulcich go off the board, 2 of my top tight ends in this year's class. But Charlie Collar, a guy that I've talked about quite a bit, that has a lot of athleticism, that can attack the seams, that can be one of those guys that can, help you out immediately as a pass catcher at the tight end spot. He would be a really interesting one to pay attention to. And then also a potential tight end convert in Tanner Connor, who could move over as well. Very, very small school prospect who's listed as a wide receiver, but he's like 6'4", 6'3", 220 pounds. The guy's going to play tight end probably at the next level. So those are some names that I could see the Saints going for when it comes to pass catcher. Again, that's not limited to just wide receiver. They could go, tight end for that as well. So either they continue to look to bolster up this offense a little bit more, add some more weapons over on that side. They could keep a strength on their defensive line by continuing to fortify on the interior. They could also still look at some safeties that are out there. I mean, most of the safeties that are going to be able to serve the Marcus Williams role are already gone, right? Guys like Brian Cook, Lewis Seen, Kirby Joseph, Jaquan Brisker, who maybe would have made you comfortable enough to have him as a strong safety and then use Marcus May as a free safety, just kind of open up a couple more doors for you. So it'd be interesting to see what the Saints do and if they address secondary anymore and what that might tell us about Alontae Taylor and the rest of the Saints secondary. But those are the names that I think that the New Orleans Saints can win with when it comes to day 3 that will make them a better team. I don't know if they became a better team in day 2. We'll have to see how they decide to maximize Alontae Taylor, who has a ton of talent. We'll have to see how they do it. They can make themselves a better team by utilizing him correctly, but we'll see exactly what it is that they do, or utilizing him to the best of his extent. Let's say it that way. So we'll talk more about what the New Orleans Saints do after day 3 wraps up. We'll recap all of that and then look ahead to, as well as undrafted free agency, potential free agents that the Saints could still go after the compensatory period is done, all of that. So we've got more coming for you here throughout the week here on Locked On Saints. It's a part of Locked On Podcast Network. Appreciate you as always for making us your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, go and check out Locked On NFL Draft. Eric Crocker, Ryan Tracy, getting you everything you need to know ahead of day 3. And of course, I appreciate you as always making me a part of your day and a part of your routine. For more on your New Orleans Saints, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you living. Let me know how you momming them. And trust you, that nation. I'll holla at you.